Welcome to another edition of Perfect Game College Baseball. I'm Brett Dolan, filling in for Darren Sutton, joined as always by an old friend, Hunter Pence. And Hunter, we're going to talk about the D1 college baseball ranks at the end with Craig Cozart, but this is a D2 show. And you're talking about guys who not only play for love of the game, they're also playing for a championship, like Kevin Brooks, the head coach at Angelo State. His team, number one, the Rams, trying to take down Colorado Mesa in a super regional. And Luke Napleton, 27 home runs at Quincy. These are a couple of individuals who love their schools and love playing baseball.
Yes, extraordinary time in college baseball. This is the time. They're headed to the Super Regional. This is what it's all about, to go to the World Series and chase the national championship. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. And let's hear the stories of these successful seasons and what's going right and what they're looking forward to.
This is also conference tournament weekend on the Division I ranks. And these are individuals and teams playing for the opportunity to get to a regional next week, trying to win a conference championship. For some teams like Texas A&M and others, I mean, they are very much on the bubble. This is the time of the year, Hunter, where all that hard work that you've done in the offseason, you hope starts to pay dividends for the most meaningful games of the calendar.
Absolutely. And we've seen the cycles all year long. We've seen the teams that started off hot, slowed down, the teams that were really bad. Everyone was, whoa, is Texas, they're not good this year. Now all of a sudden they're in the top 10, top 25. But everything before this doesn't really matter. Find a way to get in. These conference tournaments are really going to matter. And there's a lot shaking right now. This is the time to really pay attention and hone in. And we've been waiting for this moment.
As a player, does the finality enter your brain if you're thinking, if we lose this week, we're not going to be in a regional? If I could be down to the last couple of games of my season or my career, is that with you in the back of your mind this week?
Man, I never thought of it like that. I always got that exciting tingle. I was like, this is what I did all the work for. This is what all the commitment, all the time in the gym, everything. This is the opportunity to shine. And I was very excited. And the one thing is I love to play. I just wanted to play one more day. Let's go give it all. And I will say that it doesn't sink in until after you lose, because I never got to play in the college in the D1 playoffs. I was in junior college, but now that hits you after you lose. You never think you're going to lose, Brett.
That's why you're Hunter Pence and your glass is always half full, and that's why we love you. Well, we'll talk with Kevin Brooks coming up next from Angelo State. He's got an amazing program. We'll visit with Kevin on Perfect Game College Baseball. Perfect Game College Baseball is going to take a Division II slant this week, and why not start with the best? Kevin Brooks, head coach of Angelo State, his team, the D2 South Central Super Regional this week, just finished off a regional victory. Now they're hosting Colorado Mesa, I believe, for the third straight year. So, Kevin, I know this is a big week. I got to believe it's pretty exciting. Just give us a sense of what the anticipation is like around San Angelo.
It's great. We play Colorado Mesa quite a bit in this situation. And so, it's a really good rivalry in D2 baseball. And the people of San Angelo love their baseball. Last year, I think we outdrew 3 D1 regionals for this matchup. So, good buzz, good baseball, and looking forward to it.
Yes, it's definitely exciting, Kevin. And I want to ask, I have a couple of questions. That gets me really excited, first and foremost, on this one in particular. So I'll jump a little bit ahead. But what is kind of your message to the team when you get to this point? You've had a lot of success in playoffs over a long career. I would just love to learn from you, like what you tell the kids and what the kind of process is as you go into these more emotional series.
Well, that's something I think that you fight. And our biggest message is be who we are, be who you are. A lot of times, you hear you got to take your game to the next level and all that stuff. And we sort of say the opposite of that. Just be who we've been, since first day of the fall in all the games in the spring, because we feel like you have a better chance of being successful when it's normal. And obviously this isn't normal, but the closer we can make it to normal, we feel like the better we'll perform.
I love that. I think there's a lot of power in that, and it makes a lot of sense why you've had so much success in the playoffs. And I guess to me also, I think it was a really cool journey for your team to make it this far. The series against Tyler in the regional. Can you tell us a little bit about that series, that matchup? You had a split with them earlier in the season as well. I would just love to hear that through your eyes.
Well, tell you, it was a battle, and we split with them back in February at their place. Lost the 2 games we lost were 2 1-run games where we didn't score a whole lot, and so we knew their pitching staff was very capable of going up there and throwing well, and it was going to be a struggle for us offensively. So, credit to Coach Porsche and his staff at Tower. They gave us everything we wanted. And, we won game 1 pretty handily. We had our guy, Cade Bragg, on the mound, and just a lot of people have struggled against him. Then game 2, they got a couple of balls out and 2 swings of the bat, and we lose 4-3. And then game 3, did not start off very well for the Rams. We got down 3-0 pretty quick there and got out of a bases loaded, nobody out jam in the second with just giving up 2, which I thought was just key. And then, we sort of just kept doing what we're doing. And the 6th inning, able to put some things together, lay down some bunts, steal some bases. And then able to have a big inning in the 6th and 7th and then hang on. But, man, they were the one team I really didn't want to see at the regional. And luckily we were good enough that day to get by them.
Talking with Kevin Brooks. His Rams ready to host a super regional against Colorado Mesa at their beautiful ballpark, Angelo State. And Coach, when I look at your numbers, 50 wins jumps off the page, 31 wins at home. Your team on base percentage intrigues me, and I would say 183 stolen bases intrigues me too. So tell me a little bit about just kind of what makes up your team as far as kind of the style that you've enjoyed and had so much success with.
Well, I think, every team's different, and obviously whatever personnel you have, you need to try to adapt to that style. We're a team with great team speed. We're very disciplined. I think I haven't looked recently, but I think we still maybe have more walks and strikeouts. If not, it's really close. The hit by pitch is a huge weapon for us, and we don't work on leaning balls in. Chicken wing in and stuff like that. But we're pretty good at if they throw it at us, taking first base. So it's a big weapon for us. I like to say we're really good at playing baseball. We play great defense. We're the best defensive team in D2. We make the routine play over and over again, and then we go make the great one. And then offensively, on base percentage is what we preach. We try to get as many guys to first base as we can. We're really big at getting the leadoff guy on. I think our on base percentage is real close to 500 with leadoff guys this year, and then try to execute and play baseball. Runner on second, nobody out. Let's get him to third. We're not a team that can depend on the 3-run homer. We get them very occasionally, but we want to throw strikes, play good defense, play good situational baseball. And then, when we get guys on, while we don't have the power, we do have the 180-something stolen bases. So those singles become doubles, those doubles become triples. And it just puts a lot of pressure on the defense, So we play hard, we play fast, and try to do all the things that the baseball requires that day.
Well, I like that. Team on base percentage, 462. And I'm just looking at some of you guys. I think I counted 12 players batting 300 or better. Austin Beck was the conference tournament MVP for the 2nd year in a row. Trip Clark's hitting 365. Austin Beck, 349. Jacob Guerrero, 438. By the way, he won a state championship at Colleyville Heritage, and he wasn't the best player on his team, I guarantee you, because Bobby Witt Jr. was on that team and Mason Greer. But, Coach, you could probably throw out a few names, too. It just seems like you have a lot of guys who have done their job extremely well this season.
We do, and that's the one thing, going back to the regional we just played, game one against Metro, it was 6, 7, 8, 9 that carried the offense that day. First game against Tyler is 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you get to game 3, nobody did anything, and then the last game again, it was the bottom half, and so that's what I think makes our team so good. It really is a team, and we can do damage up and down the lineup anywhere.
Wow, Kevin. I mean, it sounds amazing what you've developed in this team you have running this year. For me, pitching, defense, and speed is like – that is like my, as a strategist of baseball, like that is exactly what I would want to build any team to be like. And it just suffocates the other team. So it's exciting. Another thing that really stood out to me, Kevin, that you did, and it's really awesome, hearing you talk about this, is you had 17 different pitchers pitch this year, and you stretched out the innings where it wasn't like you just really rode your ace, your Cade Bragg, even though he pitched great and he threw a lot of innings. You had 17 different pitchers. Can you talk a little bit about the balance and the weapons that you have as far as your pitching arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, we're really lucky. We have a lot of good arms. Felt like last year our pitching was not as good as what it is accustomed, so we really hit the recruiting trail hard in that area and tried to bring in some quality arms. The one thing that we've learned over the years is lots of pitchers fade this time of year in college baseball because of just their workload. And so we're real conscious of that during the regular season. We want our guys throwing their best, being healthy at this time of year. And so there are some games, where you've got Cade Bragg out there and you're in the 7th and he's at 100-ish pitches and you're like, man, we can go one more. And we generally tend to not. And then, so also it puts those other pitchers in those tight situations that they're going to be in the postseason. So it really is. It's by design. We try not to stress them, and then now we come playoff time, and if we need to, we can probably roll the dice a little bit more because their arms are obviously in shape, all that stuff. But it's credit too when you feel real good going to the next guy because he's a quality guy as well.
Yeah, I mean it's a cool story. It's amazing to see it play out the way it has for you so far this year. And the just thinking so far ahead, not being short sighted. A lot of times in baseball, it's hard to not get short sighted and be in the moment. And it's paying off now. You can see, and I think that also gives confidence to like the whole team. It builds like a collective unit and a camaraderie when everyone's kind of passing the torch and trusting each other. And it made me want to ask you, like, what is kind of the personality of this team? Like, what is, how have they come together?
Well, I tell you what, that's a really interesting thing. One, they're workers, first and foremost. I mean, that's something that our seniors and returners have done just a great job of establishing that work ethic for the new guys that come in every year. And, I used to always believe this as a coach, I got to feed my family, so it's really important to me to go out and do well. And I remember as a player, it was important to me, but I don't know if it was like as much life and death as it is for, and it's not life and death, but it feels like it sometimes, right? And anyway, this is the first team I've told them that there's no doubt they want to win. The players want to win and are as committed as the coaching staff. And that, I think that's a tough thing because especially today, they've got another game to play, most of them generally. And so sometimes, and not to say they're not committed, but that over the top level of commitment, and this team, they just have that. They have a special ability to find ways to win ball games. They love each other, which I think is so much. Matter of fact, I took a page from the Hunter Pence book the other day and just want one more day. So anyway, they're
Kevin Brooks joining us from Angelo State, his team sitting on the verge of maybe another trip back to the College World Series and Cary. Kevin, I think you either started this program or restarted this program, and you've been the only guy since that time frame. When you came from the Division I ranks and you had some experience A&M and others. Did you think you would be here this long? And what has kept you in this program and continuing to build forward?
Well, I'll tell you what, God puts us where we're supposed to be. I definitely believe that. And so when we came in and started, our facilities weren't real good. We had one scholarship. It was a tough road. And, I didn't know. I'd never been to San Angelo. I think I stopped once when I was playing at Baylor. We stopped at a gas station going to Lubbock to play Tech, but that's the only time I'd ever been to San Angelo. And one, just fell in love with it. The community and the people here are what make this place so special. And, when I coached A&M, I coached under Hall of Famer Mark Johnson, and he gave me some of the best advice ever. Don't ever mess with happy. And so, when you're happy someplace, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. We have a chance to win a national championship every year. That's exciting. Facilities now are some of the top in the country at any level. And just the support of the community just make this such a special place. So it's been a really cool journey, for my family. And that was the other thing, too. When I had chances to leave, my kids were at that age, and I just didn't want to uproot them. And so my daughter actually just graduated Saturday from Angelo State. And then my son is a redshirt freshman here playing for us. So it's been cool.
Well, I like that. And Kevin, one more thought. We're making this a D2 show this week, and I want to give you maybe a chance just to brag on that level too. I know we talk a lot about D1 for good reason, but your team has stability. They have success. They're competing for a World Series. If I read it correctly, you've had 50 former players that are either currently or have played professional baseball. So the path to get you where you want to be as far as a college graduate, competing for championships, and maybe pro ball, it all seems to be right there at D2. You don't have to go to the D1 level to be able to do all of those things.
Well, I definitely agree with that. I'm a huge proponent, and I've been at that level and even Division III. There are a lot of good players at every level. The one thing we tell our guys is you're going to get seen. We don't make the choice for the scouts, but I mean, we're scouted just because we've had a history of putting guys, into professional baseball. So, our relationship with those guys is really good, and they trust us. And if we're like, you need to see this guy, they come see him. And then, the thing that we really pride ourselves on is player development. We feel like, that's our thing. That's what we do. And so it's so cool. When I was at A&M, I mean, we signed 10 dudes that had already got drafted or were just like, hey, I'm going to college, would have been drafted.
Kevin, appreciate the time. Best of luck to you this weekend. Can't wait to see where the Rams go and how far they can keep on winning and get to this season. So thanks for your time and enjoy this weekend.
All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
That's Kevin Brooks, Angelo State. We'll come back with more of Perfect Game College Baseball right after this. Our next guest on Perfect Game College Baseball, Luke Napleton. He is a catcher from Quincy University, getting ready for a super regional this week at home. Hit 27 home runs, led D2 for most of the season. Hit 17 of those in conference play, coming off a big regional. Luke, welcome. And when I mention all of those numbers and your accomplishments, what's the first couple of thoughts that go through your mind?
Well, it's just it's a pleasure to be on the show, and I think it just shows to all the hard work you've put in through all the off seasons and throughout my baseball career. So it's an honor.
Yeah, you're definitely well deserving. Speaking of hard work, that kind of sparks the interest. And obviously, you've had a lot of success. But I love to kind of dig deep and get behind the success and figure out, what is the foundation? And tell us a little bit about your hard work, your preparation, and how it's paid off throughout the journey of this season.
Yeah, so I like to think I pride myself in the weight room. I take the weight room very seriously, so love getting active in the weight room, and I think it shows onto the field with a little more bat speed, a little more power, and definitely has paid off in the past couple of years in college and summer ball, seeing results.
Definitely, and I can agree that you get that stronger, you can do less and accomplish more. A little bit about obviously 29 home runs. Your team offense collectively over it's like 1,050 OPS. You have had a 1,200 plus OPS. Describe what it's like being in a lineup like that, carrying that torch as well. What is the feeling with your crew, with Quincy, and ran through the regional pretty impressively? Describe a little bit that offense that you got clicking right now.
Yeah, I think we have the best 1 through 9 in all of Division II, and it shows because we've got 120 something team home runs where we hit the ball out of the yard pretty consistently. We hit a lot of balls hard. We have great hitters around me, which makes my job a lot easier considering I don't have to do as much because you can't pitch around me. You got 17 home runs and 20 home runs behind me with the 4, 5, and 6 hitters. So obviously these are like my best friends. So seeing them succeed as well as me is awesome.
I got a feeling if you go back and look at some of your home runs, there are ones that are more meaningful than others. And I know that one popped out at me as I'm reading up on you, Luke. And first game of the conference tournament, you guys were involved in quite a dogfight. And I believe you had a walk-off home run. So kind of take me through maybe that moment.
First game of the conference tournament, I had a walk-off walk. I hit a home run to get the rally going in the 5th when we were down by, or the 4th down by 6 or 7 we're the 1 seed, we're playing the 8 seed, but come conference tournament time, everyone's going to be giving you their best game. They're throwing their best guy at you. So we were down a lot and then got the rally going with a home run at a pretty cool field. They had a nice little light show for you around the bases. That was pretty cool. And then, we just battled back. All the lineup really turned on in the 5th, 6th, and 7th. And once you get to the relievers, it's a new ball game. So we ended up winning. All I did was get a walk in the last inning with the bases loaded, but it credits the guys that got on base before me and gave me a chance for it.
When you guys started this journey this year, and I think you've had a program record in wins, did you have the sense with all the talent around you that this could be a special year? Was there some build that took place throughout the season? Or coming into this season, did you feel like you had a real good chance to be sitting here in this spot this week playing for a trip to the World Series?
Yeah, so after last season, we returned basically our whole team. We lost a couple seniors, a couple arms out of the bullpen, but we returned most of our starters, and I would say 7 out of the 9 in our lineup, returning all the power in our lineup. And then we all knew we were good. We had a really good fall. And then going into the winter, we were looking forward to our trip in Florida in late February, which is against the top competition in Florida. We played Tampa, St. Leo, and then Rollins in 2 weeks, which are really good baseball teams down in Florida. So we were really pumped to go into there. We weren't really sure what we had in the tank going into that, but we came out of that and had a really successful Florida trip. But after that happened, I think we knew we could roll. We knew we were a really good team, and I think we still are a very good team. We have a chance to go to North Carolina National Championship after this weekend.
Absolutely, Luke. And that brings me to, you kind of built confidence through, forged through the fire. What was kind of the mentality when you're having this good of a season, going into the Super Regional? Because like you said, now all of a sudden everyone's gunning for you. Everyone's bringing their best. It's playoff time. What was kind of the mentality going into the regional, and how do you catapult that into the Super Regional? What are you going to take from it, and how are you going to come into this Super Regional?
Yeah, so we were hosting a regional. It was always fun, but there's a lot of people coming into town, a lot of distractions. Then you got to realize they're here to watch you play baseball and really lock it in on the field. And once you get more to the postseason, you realize it's not about you; it's about the team. Even though it's always about the team, but even more so in the playoffs, where every pitch matters, everything matters, and you really can't take one pitch off, or it might end up costing you.
Absolutely. So locking in the focus and, obviously the offense, but you're also a catcher, and it's rare to see, a catcher with as great an offensive ability as you have. Tell us a little bit about your love for catching, what it's like working with your pitching staff and just the defensive side of the game for you.
Yeah. I've never really played another position up until college. I play a little outfield when I don't catch to keep a bat in the lineup, but never really played another position ever since Little League. I think that credits back to like my Little League days when my dad's the coach and he didn't have a catcher, so he just stuck me back there. But yeah, I like catching. I caught all through high school and I love it. And you build a relationship with all the pitchers on the pitching staff. And we returned all 4 starters this year and a lot of the bullpen guys, and catching their pens all throughout the fall and the winter, and seeing how pitchers are progressing and seeing what new pitches they get. It makes catching a lot more enjoyable when you see pitchers you've been putting in hard work with succeed on their part of the game too.
Talking to Luke Napleton, the catcher from Quincy, 27 home runs. He was the player of the year in the Great Lakes Valley Conference, led the league in 5 different offensive categories. His team getting ready to face the University of Indianapolis in a super regional. And by the way, that was the school, Luke, and I know I'm not giving you a scouting report. I'm sure you've heard this week, but they had a guy by the name of Brady Ware this year who both threw a no-hitter and hit for the cycle in the same game. And he's coming to town to play you guys. That's kind of a fun little subplot or sub-story.
Yeah, we played them for the first time this year in the conference tournament, and he didn't pitch, but he started in the DH role. So I think that's pretty cool. I think he's scheduled to pitch game 3. I believe he was their game 3 starter. I could be wrong on whatever they had planned, but yeah, that's one of the cooler stats and cooler feats I've ever seen.
And speaking of cool, I just love your ballpark, too. I think it was built in the 1930s. It's brick all the way around. I mean, this thing was built before World War II. I'm looking at your left field fence. If I'm not mistaken, it looks like a brick wall out there. So you don't want to run into that. But give me just a little flavor of your ballpark and kind of the facility you guys play in.
Yeah, QU Stadium is a lot of fun. It's brick all around the outfield, so the warning track's a little extra big, so you've seen a lot of opposing outfielders run into the wall and it doesn't look like it feels good. So that's definitely a home field advantage, but we got 325 to left, it's like 410 to center, and then it's 300 down the right field line, so it's a real short right porch. But it's basically just a square, and we got the football field in right field, so it's a lot of fun.
Hunter, you would not have survived. You would have run through a brick wall like Bump Bailey and The Natural.
No, when I'm playing the outfield, I like to stay away from the wall.
Yeah, the running into the brick wall is not it. I will tell you that right now. The brick wall wins against anybody, even if you hit the weight room every day. I want to ask you one more, Luke. My last question to you, and we didn't really dive into specifics, but I mean, with the season you had, I got to hear kind of your in-game approach. Like when you're going up to the batter's box, like what are you like to look for, and what is the preparation before a game? Like some of your drills that you may do to get you locked in.
Yeah, before the game, it's just more taking a really good batting practice, focusing on staying inside the ball, hitting the ball at right field, on a line, low and hard, always wins in batting practice because then it turns into line drives and home runs in the game. But in the game, my approach is always just to hit the ball through the batter's eye. That's kind of always something I've thought of because you're keeping your approach to the middle, and if you hit the ball through the batter's eye, that's probably at the perfect swing you could ever have. So keeps you on time. If you're a little early, you pull it. If you're a little late, you hit it the other way. But you're always hitting something hard to all parts of the field. So.
Luke, final thought. You've had an incredible year, maybe as good, if not better, than anybody at any level of college baseball. What would a couple of more wins to get to the World Series mean for you and your team?
Yeah, the end goal is always to win the national championship. I'm pretty sure every single college baseball player, no matter the level, will tell you that. Being the number one team on top at the end of the day would be super cool. I got a lot of buddies that are seniors. We had a big senior day, so it would mean a lot for not only me, but a lot to the seniors and a lot to all the coaching staffs that have put in all this hard work to get our program where it is today. So a couple wins this weekend and then give it our best in the World Series would be a blessing.
And you got to represent the Midwest too, right? I mean,
absolutely.
I like that. You're talking to an Iowa guy, so I understand representing the Midwest where you get a chance to get to the World Series. Luke Napleton, catcher from Quincy, an incredible year. Thanks for your time. Good luck this weekend. Can't wait to see how this shapes out for you and your team.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
That's Luke Napleton. We'll come back with more A Perfect Game College Baseball right after this. It is always fun to talk to Craig Cozart, our Perfect Game college baseball guru, and what a week and what a time it is. And Craig, we're going to jump right in. For a lot of people, they call this tournament weekend. For me, it's weekend to determine who's going to host next weekend. Mm-hmm. But having said that, it does feel like maybe I haven't given Wake Forest quite the due. And it's hard to say that when they've been top 5 all year, but LSU's been top 1 for most of the season. So Wake Forest and Florida right now out of the SEC, are those the 2 best teams we're looking at?
I think so at this point. I mean, you look at Wake Forest, they're 45-9. They got a chance to get to 50 wins before they get to 10 losses, which is insane in today's day and time. But what do you say about them? They're the best pitching staff in the nation. They're extremely offensive. I was looking at some numbers this morning just between Nick Kurtz and Brock Wilken. They have a combined 44 home runs and 126 RBIs. So that's insane. They have the 1-2 punch in Lauder and Hartle. Sullivan hasn't pitched in 3 weeks, who led the nation for a long time in strikeouts. So I'm not sure what his situation is, but all they do is back him up with Seth Keener, who has a 1.40 ERA and a 6-0 on the year and 18 appearances in 4 starts. So they really just show so much depth. It's insane.
Well, you're not wrong, and I feel like that Wake Forest pitching lab. There's all sorts of big leaguers headed to that lab, and it's paying off. And obviously, the Florida surge. Craig, I got to ask you. You know, we're bringing back the old school Clemson to their glory. Eric Bakich, Coach Bakich, left Michigan to come to Clemson. We got to talk to him. Really blew my mind with a lot of what he's implementing into the development of the players. Can you talk a little bit about Clemson and the season they're having and why they're where they are right now?
Sure. Well, the backstory on Eric Bakich, he was a volunteer at Clemson under Jack Leggett back in the day. Tim Corbin gets the head coach's job at Vanderbilt. He follows him, and then he's off and running to Maryland and then Michigan and now back home in Clemson. So he obviously knows the ins and outs of running a great program. But, what they've done is absolutely amazing. We were talking about them, hopefully getting into the NCAA tournament in 2024, but here they are. They're getting ready to host just like that. Some numbers to think about. They're on a 12-game winning streak heading into Durham, the ACC tournament. They're 22-3 in their last 25 games, and Cam Canarella has really been the guy that's been lighting the fuse for these guys. He's a freshman. He's their leadoff guy. He's their center fielder, batting .393. And like I said, he was the ACC Freshman of the Year. And then Caden Grice makes this whole engine go. We knew about Caden Grice as an offensive power. He's got unbelievable juice in the bat, but he's arguably their best arm now. He started off the year number 3 in their rotation, but here he is. He's got a 3.18 ERA. He's 7-1 on the year in 12 starts. So this guy does it on both sides of the ball and really sets the tone. So, what Coach Bakich and his staff have done there is quite amazing. The resurgence of Clemson baseball is obviously great for the entire country. And I don't want to skirt on the issue of how good Florida is right now. Let's go back to them. Brett, you mentioned it. They won the SEC East. They're the number 1 seed in Hoover. Wyatt Langford has just quietly hit .399. That's really what he's hitting right now. He's got 16 home runs and 41 RBIs to protect Jack Caglione in that lineup. And to me, they are the elite team in the SEC, and with Wake Forest, they look like the 2 clear-cut favorites right now for playing in Omaha and potentially the national title.
Okay, so and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip over Florida, but this leads me to one of my random questions I thought of as we were going on this exploration of where we are today in Division I college baseball with you, Craig. Is geography going to make a difference? Is it going to make an impact this year? And on top of that, I know I'm giving you a 2-part question once again. You mentioned Florida. You think they're the top of the SEC. You mentioned Wake Forest. Who do you have as the best East Coast team, the best West Coast team, and the best Central team?
Wow. Okay. Let's start on the West Coast. I mean, that is loaded. But I've always liked Stanford. I thought they were the most complete team on the West Coast. They, had a little swoon in play in March, and we were kind of like, well, you know what? Are they going to really figure it all out? That junior class is just unbelievable. And here they are. They won the Pac-12 by 5 games. So, I mean, it's not even close when it comes to that standpoint. Don't forget, Stanford's been to Omaha the last 2 years in a row. So Dave Esker knows how to do it. He keeps that team even keel. That's the way they play the game. They don't get too high. They don't get too low. So it's really special from that standpoint. Centrally, man, that's a loaded question. Don't sleep on Dallas Baptist. Okay. They're playing really good baseball right now. I know they're the mid-major. They potentially could host. They need to make some hay in the conference tournament, but they're more offensive this year than they've been in the past. We popped them into the top 10, and they've kind of sustained that. They fluctuated between 10 and 15 in our poll. And so, when you get to the East Coast, wow, who do I take between Wake Forest and Florida? It's really, really difficult to say that you're picking one over the other in that situation because they're just so talented. I'm interested to see how people handle the conference tournament, though. A lot of times teams that have already secured their situation maybe throw off. They don't extend their starters. They're setting the stage for the regionals. So that's a dangerous thing, Hunter. As you well know, playing 162 games like you used to, you can't turn it off and on. So it's a fragile balance between keeping your team primed and playing at a high level and resting your guys to get them ready for the NCAA tournament.
Craig, I love talking host sites. And to me, it's a lot of fun, whether Texas has all of a sudden played themselves in and Alabama, have they been in, as South Carolina played themselves out. But to me, I think one of the fascinating storylines has to be the number of mid-majors who could potentially host, and whether that's Coastal, Indiana State, DBU, ECU, Southern Miss, UConn, Campbell. How many mid-majors could we potentially see, or do you think we will see as hosts?
Well, the team that I think is at the forefront, and to me should be a lock, is Indiana State and out of the Missouri Valley. They're 10 in RPI. 41 strength of schedule. And here's where they really distinguish themselves. They're 3 in non-conference strength of schedule. They did an awesome job of going on the road, playing a quality schedule, and they've done a great job with it. They won the Missouri Valley Conference by 6 games. So they're sitting at 10 in RPI. If some things happen with some teams ahead of them, they very well could sneak their way into top 8 seed contention. So to me, they're a lock. Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt is a lock as well, 13 in RPI. They're the number 2 non-conference strength of schedule in the nation and won a very, very difficult Sun Belt regular season championship, just edging out Southern Miss. Conference USA, Dallas Baptist, as I've already mentioned, I think they should be a lock. Then I think Campbell's got some work to do. Campbell kind of stumbled and, stubbed their toe last weekend against a really good USC Upstate team. But they lost the first 2 games, which meant that literally the last game of the year decided the regular season championship, which Campbell had to win in 12 innings. So they ended up winning the regular season in 12 innings against USC Upstate. ECU, who we typically know as a host, they have work to do. They're 24 RPI. Nobody has ever been a host with an RPI lower than 24. So that's where they are right now. They've got to win some games in the American. UConn, 25 in RPI. They need to win some games in the Big East. Then the Big Ten has 2 interesting scenarios with Indiana. Maryland won the league, but their RPI is really not in position. I think they're at like 46 right now. But Indiana and Iowa, 27 and 32 in RPI. They have a shot if they can make a run. I don't really like Iowa's chances because their strength of schedule is 113, non-conference 170. They just have too far to go. So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting scenarios. I think we're going to get 4 to 5 mid-major hosts this year.
No, I think that's interesting. I think that changes kind of the narrative of it's only SEC teams, it's only Power 5 teams. And I do think it adds just a different element. And it does show you, Craig, as you talked about the schools that have some work to do this week. I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts on conference tournaments. Because as I sit here in Fayetteville, Arkansas, I'll be honest, the conversation is, God, how can they lose 2 games and get out of this and go home?
Right.
Let's not win these games, and let's gear up for next week. What really matters, it won't hurt the RPI. So it is a contrast, isn't it, for those conference tournaments between schools that you mentioned that really need to win a few games and those that, quite honestly, if they could go home right now, would take that.
Right. Well, obviously, you look at Arkansas. They've battled injuries all year. It's probably best for them to play 2 games and go home, quite honestly, because they're going to host. They're a top 8 seed, no problem. LSU's in that same situation, and obviously they're trying to figure out their pitching. You know, a team that won today soundly, South Carolina won 9-0. They needed that. South Carolina has been scrambling. So, you know, to be in the situation that they are where I think they have lost their last 4 consecutive SEC series. They've been beat up with injuries. They needed some momentum. So, you know, I think Coach Kingston's looking at that saying, you know what, we really need to do some interesting stuff here. Kentucky is the other one that's going to be really fascinating for me to watch because they've only won 1 of their last 7 SEC series, but they're number 2 in RPI, number 1 strength of schedule. So what does the committee do with that, right? They've really been in a tailspin down the stretch here, winning only 1 of their last 7 series. But here they are, you know, they're at the top from an RPI standpoint, even though what did they finish? They finished 4th in the East in the SEC. So, you know, different teams have different things that they need to accomplish. I think Alabama, Jason Jackson with the resurgence there, they want to keep playing great baseball. Obviously, they're right there at home anyway. They're going to get great fan support. So, you know what? Go win the SEC tournament, and then you literally are bringing postseason baseball back to Tuscaloosa. And I don't know when, you know, it's been since they've hosted.
Well, speaking of, you just mentioned him and the feel-good coaching stories. Can you tell us a little bit more about, you know, Jason Jackson at Bama and, you know, what he's been able to accomplish through this storm?
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to age myself here. Jason Jackson, I used to hire him to come work my pitching clinics when I was at the University of Central Florida back in the day. But, you know, what a great story. Jason Jackson is the exact kind of guy that you want in charge of a roster of young men that need to be molded, right? That need to be taught how to be upstanding young men. Beyond the baseball side, he's a sensational person. He's an elite recruiter. He's an elite pitching coach. Started his career coaching at North Florida Community College and then went to Mercer, South Alabama, FAU. Now at Alabama. And the thing that's really striking, you know, he takes over as interim head coach when they host Vanderbilt and they win 2 out of 3. Guess what? They've won every series since. They're 8-2. And they're in a great position right now to be able to host. And you know what? I'm going to put it out there. Jason Jackson should get that job when the season is over.
Beautiful stuff. And then also another feel-good coach's story. Scott Berry retires from Southern Miss on his own terms. Can you tell us a little bit about him and his work in Southern Miss?
Yeah, Scott Berry, you know, he embodies life in Hattiesburg. He's just a tough guy, an old school baseball guy. He was there for a total of 23 years between being an assistant coach, you know, under Corky, who was a legendary head coach in Hattiesburg for years. He overtook Corky as far as being the all-time wins leader, 14 years as head coach, 517 wins. And he was 4-time, I think, Conference USA Coach of the Year, 6 consecutive 40-win seasons, which I think is the active live record for 40 consecutive 40-win seasons, 8 NCAA tournament appearances. And so, you know, he embodies life there. Like I said, if you've never been to the Pete Taylor Park, it's one of the hardest places in all of college baseball to play. The fans are absolutely insane in a good way. They're passionate about their baseball. They pack it out. They're top 10 in attendance every year. People probably don't realize that. In the land of SEC baseball, they average over 4,500 fans per game. Back in 22, when they hosted Ole Miss, they packed it in for over 6,000 fans. So it's a great environment. That program is in great hands. Christian Ostrander is going to take over. That's already been announced. But I love seeing somebody with the pedigree of Scott Berry be able to go out on their own terms because, as you guys well know, that doesn't often happen in today's day and time in this profession of coaching college baseball.
Yeah, it rarely does. And Craig, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but I guess I'm going to go in that direction. For me, I guess one of the storylines has to be who's not playing this week. I mean, when the last 2 defending national champions aren't in their conference tournament, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, that is shocking to me. And then you have Louisville and Florida State, perennial College World Series contenders who are not playing in the ACC. What's going on with those four schools?
Yeah, I just think it speaks to the parity of college baseball. The landscape has changed, right? When you talk about name, image, likeness, when you talk about the transfer portal, teams can literally flip their team for the good or lose players quickly and become very bad very soon. So, with the likes of both Ole Miss and Mississippi State, I mean, good grief, they average over, 12,000 fans a game. They have every resource in the world. How does this happen? Well, the draft can hit you with your incoming recruiting classes. Mississippi State has been riddled with injuries for the last 2 years on the mound. And so it can happen very, very quickly. In the case of Link Jarrett at Florida State, first time in 44 years, they haven't been in the ACC tournament or the NCAA tournament, which is insane to think about, right? But they adopted a roster that honestly didn't have a ton of talent. And they had a couple of their best arms go down early. And, it was then became a situation of just trying to teach those kids on that roster that are going to be back next year how to play the new version of Florida State baseball under Link Jarrett. And then Louisville, yeah, I saw Louisville early on against NC State. I thought they were very talented. I thought they were a potential host in the NCAA tournament. But sometimes things turn south and guys go cold and they just never recover. It's a fragile thing to coach college baseball in today's day and time with social media, with all the varying interests that these kids have, the varying backgrounds. It's not old school days when everybody came in there and, was just there to play college baseball. There's so many distractions nowadays. You have to be really, really special as a head coach to be able to keep those kids' attention from February to May.
You're right. There's even a team like A&M that was in the World Series last year. They have work to do just to get back to a regional. As Schloss said this week, I'd take the 4 seed in Anchorage if you offered it to me now. Craig, final thought. Is there a storyline? Is there a team that Hunter and I need to focus on or watch, or somebody that we're not talking about, but maybe a week from now we will be in your mind?
Sure. Well, I would be very, very scared if I had to face the University of Tennessee going forward. This team, was as bad as they had seen in Knoxville in quite some time in February and March. And let me tell you, that's a pressure cooker of a situation. The national press was all over it. They came into the season having the best starting rotation in all of college baseball. They weren't performing like it. And somehow Tony Vitello has gotten that thing going. Offensively, they were really bad early. They couldn't generate offense early. But now they're averaging almost 10 runs a game in the last month of the season. And their arms are performing at another level. So that team is really, really dangerous to me. They look like they're an Omaha team as well. I don't think they're going to get in position to host. I just don't think that they're going to have the body of work. But whoever gets them as a 2 seed, oh my goodness, they're going to be in for a tough road, right? So it's going to be a ton of fun to watch. There's a lot of storylines and a lot of teams doing some special things right now. And, I was supposed to be getting work done this morning, but of course the ACC and the SEC tournament are on TV right now. So it's a great time of year if you're a college baseball fan especially.
Well said. Hunter, enjoy that trip to Costa Rica, by the way. I know you won't be watching games for the next couple of days.
I won't have too much technology around, that's for sure.
Good for you.
Craig, thanks for joining us always. It's fun to talk college baseball. We'll do it again soon.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
Special thanks as well to Kevin Brooks from Angelo State, kind of our D2 show. His Rams #1, chasing a College World Series in Cary, and Luke Napleton, 27 home runs for Quincy University. So for all of our guests, including Hunter Pence, I'm Brett Dolan. Thanks for joining us. Another edition of Perfect Game College Baseball.